It is 6 o'clock. Now I'll call to order this Brunswick City Commission regular commission meeting for Wednesday, June 3rd, 2024. If we could all stand for our nation and pledge of allegiance. We can bow our head. Father God, thank you for the time that we have to come to work on behalf of our citizens and the people of not only Brunswick, but Glen County. Thank you for all wisdom for those who have chosen to be elected officials to give their lives to these decisions. So thank you to our community members who show up beside us every day to help us along the way. Thank you for your wisdom and continued guidance. In your son, Jesus, we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, God, indivisible, liberty, and all.
We'll move on to the approval of the agenda, the adoption of the July 3rd, 2024 regular meeting agenda. Is there any addendums or subtractions?
Mayor, do you have one motion to our agenda this evening? I would ask that we defer item number 8 under city items.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor by the sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same. Hearing none, the motion passes. And the agenda is adopted. Before we move to the public comment period, I want to turn it over to city manager as we have a new staff person on staff and we will introduce them to the community.
Thank you for the opportunity to just allow a brief introduction for our new Economic and Community Development Manager, Christopher Carey. He joins us after 3 years. He worked with the county. He is a planner, has a great background to help us move forward with business development. I wanted to welcome him to the city.
Mr. Carey, we're always happy to get good talent here in the city of Brunswick. We thank you for your service to the county whole, but now coming over in the city and focused on helping us economic development in that space. So thank you for your wisdom and your work with us, and we're looking forward to growth. Thank you. We'll now move on to public comment period. City Clerk.
Doctor?
Yes, ma'am. Good to see you, Mr.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Robbie Tucker. I live at 11 Wall Island Circle, and I'm Brunswick. Been there almost 4 years. Been an interesting experience, you know, because I was born and raised over in Lawrenceville, Heights, Washington Heights, Brunswickville they call it. So when I moved over here, it was a little, but some things I expect. But when I first there, I had some issues with the neighbors about the property. We got that resolved. Then that issue with the neighbors about the dogs they had. We got that resolved. It took some time, and the city and just had to get involved in this and that, and it was a nightmare. So saying that, trying to get you up to speed, I think that house, they were good neighbors to start with. They lived with their mother. Okay, she's a nice lady. My girlfriend was a nurse. And then soon after that, she passed away in the house. And ever since when they started some problems with me, they got involved, they packed up and moved. Then they had a fraternity house here for almost a year, Airbnb. We went through from the marijuana smoke in the backyard, the urination in the backyard, the cussing, the swearing. I have a 10-year-old son. He was 9 at the time. And now we have new neighbors. And they have dogs. Nothing against us. They continuously bark. I've called the police a couple times and finally asked them not no more. Give me a CAD number. I think I've got 9 CAD numbers. I've got probably half-hour videos of them barking. You walk out to your mailbox. Most people's dogs, I keep an eye on this very carefully. When I have a tow truck and I go to somewhere, dogs bark 15, 20, never seen me before in their life. They shut up. These dogs have been there for months. So they know truck, I pull in every day, I back in. It don't leave unless it's emergency. I don't ride around. And I told my girlfriend, I said, you know, we have a back porch on our house. Stories. I called a guy over there to cover it up. picture, see them. I don't do all, but I had a guy come over. We talked about 10 minutes. Dogs barked the whole time. He said, "Is this going to happen if I come work for you?" I said, "Probably." He said, "You can't pay me enough to put up with aggravation." He would. So I put up metal on my house just to be a good neighbor. Dogs see me, quieten them down. That helped a bit. I mean, I'm 30 foot in the air putting sheet metal up just to keep it quiet. The dogs see me, they can't bark. They should be used to me. I've been there long enough. And I've called the 911 calls a couple of times. I was told there were good recordings on the paper trail. And they tell me, "Mr. Tucker, we cannot hear you." I said, "Imagine that. Across the yard, "Mr. Tucker, we can't hear you." 2 or 3 minutes. First officer came out shortly after May. He was there about 10 minutes in his car doing his little paperwork stuff. And I think he forwarded it to the animal control. And the whole time, they was barking the whole time. And I said, "You live with this?" I said, "Yes, that's why you're." So he done his best to turn it over to animal control. I don't know if they come out or not. But every day I go home, I'm not a betting man, but I bet you next tee, I go to my driveway, here they come. And they'll bark a couple of minutes at a time. And dogs are really good animals. I've had my whole life. But they mind like children. Sometimes are children. But if you let a dog act out continuously in your home, kind of like the owner, like you have a bad dog and the parent don't do something to it, I got a bad parent, you would, But anyway, that's my concern is this dog issue. And some city paper about the dogs, the noise, I'll be brief with that. Which disturbs humans or causes or tend adverse psychological humans. Noise disturbance, according to the city, endangers health of humans, being disturbs a reasonable person of normal activities, values, proper personal property, etc. That's the city thing there. And I went online. Most people do nowadays. I'm not really good with a computer, but try to get by. And the city residential from 7 a.m. to p.m., the sound level is, I think, 70 decibels. The average dog is 60 to 100 decibels when they bark. Majority of dogs average is between 80 and 90 decibels. Kennels are normally at 95 to 115 to 120 for kennel animals. Let's see. The continued barking is considered a nuisance. It's considered excessive when they bark over 1 to 2 minutes steadily. And if I get up them sometimes Sunday morning, I get up about 6:30 because sun's up. You go outside, they start barking. I mean, I don't know working at. They can't see me, but they'll bark continuously. Come home the other night about 11, had some friends over. We was playing some pool. They wanted to see the city at night. Went upstairs. They start barking. And the guy, he's an airline pilot. He said, "Does that happen in this neighborhood?" I said, "Yes, next door to me it does. But the rest of neighbors, their dogs start barking streets away. A few minutes, you hear nothing." Now, I understand 4th of July, I'll be here tomorrow. You have dogs barking, kids screaming. That's part of it, okay? That's different. It's a holiday. But anytime you come home from just normal like these, and they continue, and they do it every day still. And we've reached out to HOA to help. They're about as much help as there was with the Airbnb. That tells you anything. But they also said it could be considered disturbing the peace. And it could be considered maintaining and operating a disorderly house, even though it's a yard. Disturbance of the neighborhood of orderly citizens, it could be guilty misdemeanor. And most of this got with is off LexisNexis and Westlaw, and just basically, But the Georgia law defines peace, disturbing the peace, causing disturbance that interferes with the tranquility and the good order of the community. It's a broad definition, but it's still disturbing the peace. And so it's not hard to get along with. I don't bug nobody. I get up, I go to work, I come home, I like to enjoy it. I like to look out in the city of Brunswick, smell that salt air, but it's ongoing. And I have to come to you guys to make you aware there's a problem, because can't help me. You have to be made aware. That's part of it. But, here's a little more. I'm not gonna hold you guys up. I think you guys need to try to help me with this, That's all. I appreciate you. Have a good holiday. Eat some barbecue.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you for your work in the city. I before you go, want to think about a few things. I
Yes.
think in the contact we've had with and control, um, let us look into that, what the response from and control has been, understanding that that is a fund that's run by the county. So if we've had that outreach to them, let's see if we've had any connection from animal control to the homeowners, because the first initial question that I would think of is, are there any mitigating circumstance that they've asked them to kind of work on, whether it's collars, whether keeping them inside for certain of day or during night or things to that nature. Go ahead,
And
Ms.
being that you said that, they have been outside.
Okay.
I've got pictures of that. So I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want the dogs, but I mean, they're barking out inside the gate. They may bark like that gate,
Right.
but I appreciate
Right. Right. The second piece of it is, I think we as a commission probably need to take a deeper dive into the ordinances and laws we have around animals as a whole. I see a lot of dogs that are unleashed, a lot of dogs that are kind of maybe down on things that maybe they shouldn't be down on
Understood.
throughout the summer. So let us take a broader look at that, and then
Get back.
we'll be working.
Sounds good, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Honorable Mayor, have a good day.
Yes. City Clerk Atkinson, any more? Okay. Wonderful. With that, we now move on to city attorney items, the adoption of proposed ordinance 1083 amendment to Planning and Appeals Commission ordinance. Director Hunter, I know Brian is with us this evening, so I know we walked through the press 3 or 4 times, but for one last time before we take a vote.
Yep, for what time, just, basically the ordinance that you have before you does make some changes, have been requested by the Planning and Appeals Commission, as well as some changes that, y'all had initiated during our review process. Since the last thing, the only change, that you will see is in section 2335 voting. That was where the city attorney has clarified that language so that it's clear that members shall vote on each matter placed before it. The role of the alternate and when members should abstain. I think that's a big improvement over what we had before, but that's the only change since your last review at the last meeting.
I want to say big to the commission. I know that everyone is through this numerous times. Commissioner Williams had some amazing edits. Got those in. Is everything looking good? You're in. I know Mayor Pro Tem had a few edits as well, but I think those are included. And so we are glad to see the final product. Any comments or questions? Just so I know, City Clerk Agnes, do we need to do public comment? We take a vote or wide open? Okay. Any comments or questions for Director Hunter?
Just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I always like a good editor.
Wonderful. With that, we will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that adopt the proposed ordinance revision for 1083, the amendment to the Appeals Commission ordinance.
Hearing a first, here a second.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to appointments for commissions and board. Planning and Appeals Commissions, we have 3 appointments, 2 board members and 1 alternate. I think everyone had the chance to read through their resume. I know we have two individuals who have been but who have had conversations with myself. I've met with everyone one on one. I know Miss Bliss is at a church conference, and Miss Bruce is at a close friends or family's wedding, so they weren't able to make it out this evening. But they have had conversations with myself and other commissioners, as well as turning in appropriate documentation. That we will open it for any motions that are before us.
Mayor, I would
Yes.
like to say I would need to, I'm not sure if you're going to vote on each name,
Yes.
individual names, but I have to recuse myself voting for Harrison due to kinship.
Yes, ma'am. And what we will do is
Pete,
city attorney, was that you? May I accidentally came off of mute. We will voting for each of them individually. So the first one that will be up will be the alternate seat. Someone would be able to make a motion for that, and we would move on down. So we'll take each individual. So right now we're open for the alternate seat, and we would be open for a motion.
Like to make a motion that we have Miss Odette Douglas as the
Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes, and O. Douglas is placed in the alternate position. We will now have a motion for the two open seats on the Planning and Appeals Commission.
Mr.
I
Mayor, do
make
you
a
want to?
motion.
Head.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes.
We
Echo.
got you a little bit, but I think we would be able to catch them.
Okay. I make a motion for Miss Dolores Harrison. And is Miss Collins going for one of the seats, or was she going for alternate?
Say that one more time.
Yes.
Miss Collins was wanting alternate position.
She was going for the alt.
Mm-hmm. That's what city clerk has.
Okay, so she didn't want one of the regular seats.
According to City Clerk Atkinson, that is correct. And we would be making the motions one by one. Can't make two at the same time. So I wanted to take Miss Harris first as a singular motion, move forward on that one.
So I'll move for Miss Harrison.
Perfect.
Continue.
And I will take that as a motion for Ms. Dolores Harrison to fulfill a open seat on the Planning and Appeals Commission. Now, first, do I hear a second? Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Ms. Harrison is locked into the first seat. We will now have a motion for the second open seat on the.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Alyssa Bruce, the Planning and Appeals Commission.
Hearing a first, do I hear it?
Second.
Hearing in a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those is the same. Hearing none, the motion passes and the board's filled. We will now move on to the Brunswick Historic Preservation Board, where we have two appointments. Give me a second to get to those. Sorry, gotta get here. All right. We have to fulfill or fill the unexpired seats of Mr. Worley and Myrna Scott Amos. We have two names submitted for those appointments, Mr. Fox and Miss Kate Saby. Both of them are with us, and we would just ask you guys to the front, please. Thank you for, I've had a chance to with both of them and spent some time with both of them. They obviously plot into our city already. All down at the college, Kate throughout our community, and we like to call her First Lady. And so we appreciate everything that you all are already doing. If you could just tell just really quickly about your interest in position, just so we can have it for the record. Fox.
Good evening, Kyle Fox, Assistant Professor of Education at the College of Coastal Georgia. And my interest in position for the Preservation Commission is that I live down here and I want to ensure that inter businesses, homeowners, interventive projects, etc., match the historic nature of the area.
Wonderful, Davey.
Yep, my name is Kate Saby. I have previously served on the Historic Preservation Board for close to 6 years. Took a break from that, but I've lived down here in Oldham for 17 years now, and very interested in the growth and character of the neighborhood. So I would be honored to serve again. Keeping that in mind.
We appreciate that, and I think it goes without we know one who has to abstain. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna, for the record, I think these are qualified candidates, but I'll be abstaining
There we
from
go.
the vote.
There, understood. Is that any comments or questions from the commission? Hearing
Yes,
none.
I have a question for Mr. Fox. Um, is he the same young man that was put on the African American Historic Preservation Board?
He was up for it last meeting, and we didn't take I think a vote on that commission, but he is up again for that appointment. Yes, ma'am.
African American. Who was the young man that we did vote on?
We didn't have a vote because we went to ensure that we had meetings with them, and to also, if they were able to go up, we wanted to make that available to the committee. So we never took a vote meeting.
Because I'm double checking because I thought that we had put a young man on. And when I spoke with Commissioner Booker, whomever that was, hadn't attended any of the meetings. So that's what I'm just trying to make sure I have clarity.
I think someone on there sometime last year. But the conversation that we had the previous meeting, it was about Mr. Fox. So we talked about Mr. Fox at that, but we never took a motion or a vote on either one. So he was up for both boards as he is this evening, but we never took a vote.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, were you referring to Mr. Christopher Epps that we ended last year?
We put the young man on the board, and he's not attended a meeting yet.
That would be.
I think you would be Mr. Epps.
I know we put somebody on there, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't confusing the same young man.
Yes, ma'am. And I've had conversations with Mr. Fox, and I'm almost positive he's going to be showing up to the meetings. He's looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Just want to make sure.
Yes. Any additional questions? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Both of them?
We would do each of them individually as well. Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion for the filling of the seat of Mr. Cal Fox for this is the Historical Preservation, Brunswick Historical Preservation Board.
Hearing that as a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the aye. Aye. All those opposed to say. Hearing none, Mr. Fox has placed that board. We will now open it for
Mayor,
yes,
before you
ma'am.
go on.
So sorry.
Even though we address Mr. Fox as Mr. Fox, he is the Fox. I think
Yes.
we need to make sure we address accordingly. He-
Dr. Fox, Professor Fox, Dr. Fox. Um, Now we would move on to an option for I want to Savy, First Lady Savy. We do have a first. Yep. Yep.
I move that we accept appointment of Mrs. Kate Saby for Brunswick Historical Preservation Board.
Here in the first, do I hear a second? Here in the first and the second, all those in favor, show by the sign. Aye. All opposed, the same. Hearing the motion passes. I think that's okay. That's my echo. Okay. Good deal. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. All right. Mr. Fox, I actually think you're still Dr. Fox. Dr. Fox, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Dr. Fox is up to replace Roosevelt Harris's unexpired term on the Coastal African American Historic Preservation Commission. We've all had his resume. So is there any questions or comments?
Dr. Fox, I have a question. Looking at the information about the historic preservation for the African American Commission, do you have any thoughts, ideas that you would like to think to present or to enhance on that in your role?
Yes, I do. In fact, I have been working with Ms. McDuffie for a while on creating the African American tour product for the city. In addition to my work that I do at the college with the Gullah Chi initiative, can't announce that yet, and I just did. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
But there are several things that I would like them to.
Thank you. That's all.
Those two.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. We will now, if there isn't any more comments or questions, we'll now open it for a motion.
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we, Dr. Fox to the Coastal African American Historic Preservation Commission.
Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first, second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the passes. Thank you, Dr. Fox. We will now move on to an appointment to the Coastal Region Commission. Mr. McVeigh has served us probably for a long time on that commission. We understand that there is some work being done, and we are to have a city voice as we've had conversations around continued transportation, ensuring that our city citizens are being served by the CRC. We again are happy for his service, our community, and to our city. This is a mayoral appointment, but to open it up for any comments or questions from the commission, if there are any. Pause for a second.
I would say, Mr. Mayor, I'm proud to serve with Mr. Shaw on Coastal Regional Commission, and he's a great partner and definitely advocate for our city.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none.
I would ask Mr. Mayor that we hear a little more frequently from Mr. McVeigh. Provide information and status updates from the COC.
That I don't think that is impossible for us to do. So after this, we will have the city clerks all work with each commissioner and find a good schedule for Mr. McVeigh and come and have a conversation with us about the wonderful kind of going on at the CRC. Mr. McVeigh, you're here with us. If you'd like to come say words, please.
But anyway, I'm honored to serve. I grew up here, been on the county commission, chairman, and in the House and so forth. And it's a unique perspective. I'm happy to represent the city. I hope that we serve you well, both Lance and I. And I welcome the opportunity. We have been before. The executive director at that time, Burns, and I came and willing to come as often as you like. I sort of suspected you really didn't want to hear much. But anyway, if there's a chance to present and to talk about issues that face the city and affect the whole county for that matter, because as it goes, the county goes, and vice versa, I'd be happy to come and do so. It is a unique opportunity. I'll say that here and now. You know, you wonder, does an organization such as Rick Commission provide help to not only the city, but the county and beyond? And I see it as an opportunity to, as a team, so that we are represented throughout Georgia, especially in the General Assembly, and be able to address issues that come before us locally with the help of other communities that are facing similar issues. And then there is also the opportunity to use services of the Coastal Regional Commission to effectively help the city. And I think you are calling upon, in fact, I think Ms. McBee has made sure that you've gotten more help of the Regional Commission in her tenure than perhaps you had in the past. And I see it as a savings so that you can devote your resources to other things that might need to be done and have to be cost effective about doing it. But anyway, anytime, let me know if you want me to come, and I'll bring appropriate staff for the particular area that you want to hear. But Commissioner Say probably would prefer that he might, he's here all the time, so he may be looking for an alternative, another person to do so. But thank you for the reappointment, Mr. Mayor, and look forward to working with you.
Thank
This
you.
is, I guess, I've been here since 2011. So if you want to run me at any time, I mean, I'm not inviting you to, but I'm happy to serve. And I also was on the RDC before that, when on the county commission. So thank you for
Wonderful.
the opportunity. Thank you.
We appreciate your wisdom and background, and also we will work to make sure we lock in Mayor Pro's request, maybe a quarterly update into that nature, but we'll work with the commission's office and Mr. Make sure we get that done. And with that, I will reappoint Mr. McVeigh to the Coastal Regional Commission. I want to say thank you to those, our citizens who have made the distinct choice to serve the city, oftentimes in thankless positions. So thank you all for your work. Thank you all for your time, and we look forward to working with you as we get that. We will now move on to public hearing for land use. Consider approval of rezone petition number 24-0 for 2400 Reynolds Street from Reynolds Street Cottages LLC. The owner petitioning to rezone parcel number 1-4148 from neighbor commercial to mixed use city core historic. Director. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make the announcement that I do serve as the executive director for Brunswick, the owner of this parcel, and I will be recusing myself from this decision this evening that's in front of us. We have Foster Hayes, one of our staff members, for additional questions, and if for reason there's some technical thing that he can, I'll be here present to also answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Director Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor. As you stated, the rezoning petition 2401 Reynolds Street, 2400 Reynolds is to rezone from neighborhood commercial to what we call mixed use city historic. Here on the, you can see the location of that outlined in blue. If my presentation will start running. Sorry, there we go. Reynolds Street Cottages C is proposing 46 residential units on 1.965 acres. The units will consist of a mix of studio units and 1 to 3 bedroom units, smaller 1 to 2 story cottages. Associated on and off street parking, alley access, and dedicated green space will be provided. Here you can see a conceptual rendering of the proposed development. It's very similar to housing that already exists in Newtown and throughout the city. 400 Reynolds Street is currently zoned neighborhood commercial. This was formerly called commercial in our old zoning ordinance. Property is currently restricted by a condition that only allows for cafe and childcare activities. These zoning restrictions were part of a project that envisioned a repurposed school facility that was on the site. The project ceased in the early 2000s and the building fell into disrepair, and it was demolished by the city under a quarter in 2018, 2019. The purpose of the rezoning to MUT would be to allow the applicant flexibility in mixing multiple residential uses with the same property and the flexibility to use on and off-street parking. Adjacent properties in the area are all zoned residential. When we consider rezoning requests, the first thing we do is look at our comprehensive plan and our care areas within that. This is within the Newtown character area. Newtown is the second oldest area of the city. This character area extends northwards from Old Town or F Street, T Street, and east to Hercules Plain, and includes both sides of MA, and then over the west to Newcastle Street. Newtown includes 3 large public squares that were set aside when it was originally platted. The Newtown character area is defined a regular rectangular block pattern, which serves to connect diverse land uses in a high-graded pattern. Land use in Newtown are single family. There are also many commercial lands along primary corridors on Norwich Street and Newcastle Street, along with churches and schools throughout the within that character area. We also look at recommended future development patterns, and our recommended development patterns there are houses located near the street, which is that encourage interaction with neighbors, new residential development, which is the mix of housing types and styles of the community, accessory housing units that provide rental opportunities for small households, the addition of neighborhood commercials on appropriate infill sites that serve the surrounding neighborhoods, grade redevelopment, structures located near streets with near street front parking and rear buildings, and an emphasis along Newcastle of protecting views of the river where possible for development in that area. In addition to the character area, our ordinances actually specify 7 questions that we are to ask when considering a rezoning request. These are outlined in section 20-26. When we consider these reading applications, zoning amendments, or conditional use permits, the first question is the proposed use compatible with the proposed intent of the comprehensive plan? And yes, new residential development is supported by the comprehensive plan. B, the proposed use suitable in the view of the zone and development of the adjacent nearby property. And the answer is, that perspective is yes, the property is surrounded by similar residential uses. Are there substantial reasons why the property cannot or should not be used as currently zoned? Answer to this is yes. As currently zoned, there are very restrictive use on the property that would only allow it to be a child care facility or cafe. E, will the proposed use cause an excessive or burdensome use of public facilities or services, including but not limited to street, school, water, or sewer utilities, police, or fire protection? The proposed development is in a developed residential area. Most of the facilities are already adequate, but where those facilities need upgrade, the developer is proposing to provide the grades. That would be water and sewer, but also in fire protection and in storage. F, is the proposed use supported by new changing conditions not anticipated by comprehensive plan or reflected in the existing zoning on the property or surrounding areas? The answer to this is no. We anticipate that development in our comprehensive plan, or it's consistent with our comprehensive plan. And G, does the proposed use reflect a reasonable balance between the promotion of public health, morality, or general welfare and the right to unrestricted use of property? And staff answers yes to this question. The use of the much zoning classification infill residential uses that utilize new development approaches is a good way to allow for flexibility with zoning. Small independent livings can meet the needs of workforce housing demands and affordability and provided by the proposed project. When originally platted in 1835, the Newtown neighborhood had primarily 2,400 square foot lots. When compared to Old Town's 12,100 square foot lots, it's easy to see the intent of Newtown was to provide workforce housing for those times and a dense design for smaller housing types. Reintroducing housing of this scale, multiple unit types in a singular development will provide a variety blending into the historic development pattern in the area. It's the type of development that can spur new ideas and approaches that will enhance the city. This went before the Planning and Appeals Commission at their June 12th meeting, and the Planning and Appeals Commission recommended approval by the City Commission as presented by staff. So that is a quick summary project. I'm happy to answer questions as Commissioner Saby added Foster Hayes with Ford is here. So if there's something that I can answer, he'll be able to help as well.
Perfect. Questions or comments from the committee?
I have a question. And you may not be able to answer, but this may not necessarily be a part of like the zone, but I'm just curious right now. Of the 46 homes, how many studio units? How many 3-bedroom homes?
And I don't exactly have it in front of me. It is within the proposed. Foster may be able to answer that real quick.
Trying to pull it up and see if I have it. Plans, do you know off the top of your head?
Don't know off the top of my head, but should be, was in the application.
It is in the action packet, but I just don't have the packet.
I got it right here,
Okay.
Commissioner. Studio would be 10 units, 1 bedrooms, 7 units. Studios, 10 units,
10 units. You said what room? Okay.
17 units.
1 bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
2 bedrooms would be 13 units. And 3 bedrooms, 6 units.
City manager, do you need him to say that louder? I have a question.
I need him to say that again.
Say it louder, she said. Studio would be 10 units. 1 bedroom would be 17 units. 2 rooms would be 13 units. And 3 bedrooms would be 6 units.
And Commissioner Rowe just gave me, she said you had 25 units would be rentals and 21 sold.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And when you all state it is affordability, and that's of the 20 rentals, what is considered or would be your affordability, or how many of them are rate?
The ranges for the tools are $675 studios, and it goes up to $1,650 for the 3 bedrooms. This is below market rate, where 60 and 120 AMI is the target that we did for this workforce development.
$1,050?
$1,650.
3 bedrooms.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
I have a couple questions. Just a moment.
Mayor Pro Tem, you go ahead, and Commissioner Roll will go after you.
Just a moment. Can you hear me? Hello?
Pro Tem, you got some questions?
Yes, I have some questions.
Okay,
Okay,
floor is open.
hold on just a moment.
Mine was a quick
The-
question.
The,
How to determine
hello? Hear me?
Mayor Pro Tem, if you ready, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I want to ask about the community input. As far as the neighbors to this, property, what has been the, community input on this? And I'm asking because it's kind of a rhetorical question.
I I think as a rhetorical question, I don't think they maybe have an answer for that question out off the bat. I'm sure they've had conversations with their board, and all the board is made up of community members who've had conversations. Offhand, I'm not sure if they are saying they had any sort of organized communal outreach.
And so my follow-up question to that would be, why not? I understand the board is made up of community persons, but are they community persons that live in that community? Not, why hasn't there been any community input from that immediate community that's going to be impacted by the development? You just leave that, they can come back and answer that. The next question I have will be pertaining to traffic studies in that area and the impact of any additional traffic.
So I'll answer the question in regards to the traffic impact. The numbers of units involved and the amount of trips generated does not rise to the level that requires the traffic study for this area. One of the discussion points at the Planning and Appeals Commission was obviously it's introducing more people into a where while recently there have not been much activity. In the past, there was a school at this location, which generated a significant amount of traffic up into late 1990s with buses, parents dropping kids for school, kids walking to school. So one of the things that we will need to monitor very early in this process will be whether or not a need for potential additional stop signs at some of these streets. Although one of the advantages of the design in this area will be that encouraging organized on-street parking acts as a traffic calming device. So there was while there was some note about potential traffic, it did not seem out of ordinary compared to other blocks and density and the development within those blocks and surrounding area.
You expected in this development, what is the increased populace that you expect due to this development? How many more residents do you expect due to this development? On the number of units and the occupancy of those units.
Yeah, Madam, I can answer a couple with questions there. First of all, in terms of the population increase, our expectation is that This puts a total of 69 bedrooms on lock, and so would it, that's a good estimate for the increased population in this block. The additional thing I'll add that Mr. Hunter mentioned in terms of traffic, one of the reasons that we're creating the alleyway and encouraging all the parking in the rear is to decrease traffic on both Reynolds Street and Street as well. And then you had a question about the public comment, public engagement. I have personally dormed in all this neighborhood. And additionally, I will say what is before you tonight is the zoning of this property to allow for a development of this potential. Currently, the only thing that can be developed there is a cafe and a care center, which obviously is not in our plan. And so we have not reached the threshold yet from a publicity standpoint, a discussion standpoint with the neighbors till we're able to acquire hopefully the rezone. And then we'll initiate conversations with the NPA and the neighborhood in general regarding the future use and the development.
And thank you for that information, Commissioner Saby. I just kind of putting out there ahead of time, some of the concerns. I am in agreement with the proposed rezoning, because it does take some of the restrictions off. But for you all to make sure now that you're at the point of the rezoning is now to go ahead and get a jump start on these concerns. And there is community input concern, the lack of the traffic study, the impact of the additional residents and a number of residents, the number of required parking spaces for this development, those type of things. Those are just some of the questions that I've been getting from residents in that area. What's the average height of the units that are going to be built? Is there any expectation or projection that any of these residents or any of these units will exceed the maximum height of 45 feet? And so just some of those questions. I know what we're here for tonight, but to go ahead and make sure that as we're facilitating this, that we are proactive. I'm sorry. That we are proactive in answering these questions up front, so that as we move forward in this process, we'll be more proactive than we are reactive on these things. I think that may be what I have right now. I'll just let somebody else ask a question if they do. But I think those were the main concerns that has been brought to me. I think Commissioner Atkinson Williams addressed the financial piece on the affordability side of it. And then I guess as we move into conversations more, be it in the commission meeting environment, or as we have additional conversations with you and others regarding this development, and to move into this new terminology of missing middle housing, to address that even further. So thank you. Those were my questions and concerns.
Well, thank you for your comments too, and I'll look forward to working with you on again communicating with the neighborhood and getting feedback on this proposed development.
Awesome.
I just have one question for Mr. Hunt, and this is for educational purposes.
Sure thing.
Why not the general? I know we want the flexibility, but what is the main difference between general residential versus mixed?
So one of the reasons is particularly that our current general residential zoning would require this time to be broken up in into many more lots. Instead of taking this singular development with part of it done as essentially spread out multifamily. If you think of rental units all under one ownership, even though they're standalone as multifamily, this makes that process easier. It also has, the Much District also has setback requirements that are closely in line with the neighborhood as it exists, as opposed to what our ordinance says, if that makes sense. Because so much of this area was built before we had zoning. You have buildings that are much closer to street front. They're packed in tight. And when we started talking about this in the process, knowing that we wanted to replicate that a little bit more, the much zoning gave us better flexibility to create that type of a neighborhood feel so that it would feel Newtown does from a density and lot size standpoint.
Okay, thank you. The only question I had was, how did you determine how many units you were going to sell versus how many you were going to?
Great question, and I'll also lump the rate question early. If you look in the applicant, there is the historic lot. So historically, to go back to the original plot, which was our initial plan, there's 15 lots on the Reynolds side and 15 lots on the Union Street. So that gives us a total of 30 individual units there. The exploration of the comp plan with our urban plan, we've identified that there's capacity here to have increased units. A lot of most of those units you can see are in the form of what's considered an attached dwelling unit. So they have a back wall. That's in design for a couple reasons. Those units could be sold together to one homeowner, and then that back unit, accessory dwelling unit, then becomes an in-stream for them if they'd like to rent it out. So it gives some flexibility for aging population. So maybe you have an elder mother or father and you would like to have their own dwelling units close enough to you. It's on your property. So it gives us some flexibility there as well. So when we look at density standpoint, it's very close. If you look at historic lot lines, all these units are designed to fit on that narrow 30 by the lot. And that way also in the future plan would be to potentially use those same architectural plans for additional infill in other areas of this. Then from the rental number standpoint, again, this is still a conceptual plan. These are estimates based on our current funding sources, the grant dollars, donations for sponsorships. So the more, for lack of a better word, cheap or free money that we get, the lower we can go on the rents. But this is not a subsidized property, and it's really designed for our young professionals, our first responders, and our workforce. And I think an interesting stat that just drives me crazy is that we have a bonus structure for our police officers, and very few of those officers manage because they can't afford to live in our city. Those are the kind of target that we're really looking for on this product. Between the for sale and the for rent, that's strictly driven by CCA funding grant opportunities that we had. There's a portion of money that's only for sale, and then there's another portion that's for rent. And so we literally just split property in half and said we're going to do half of it sale and half for rent.
Thank you.
It's an odd question. As the green space that I see, who maintains that? I see green space in the markup. Who made that green space?
I'm sorry, says for, and Lance can speak more to
Okay.
specifically.
No, it's okay.
So we'll for the for sale property, we'll have a HOA.
That's
And then for the property, obviously that'll be property managed and we'll do that. Those are 4 historical live oak that are there that we're keeping and preserving and converting to green space that the whole community.
and the not that you all would be able to guess as of now, because I'm sure HOA, I've never been in one, but I'm sure HOAs are based off of how many amenities X, Y, and Z. What is your gauge of HOA pricing?
We don't have an honest
sure.
projection yet. The nice thing is that it'll be shared. The main expense that will be the maintenance of the common areas will be shared with the property management of the rental. So,
Got it.
it's collection, it's internet, it's maintaining the lanes, and it's going to be fairly reasonable.
Okay.
Again, for units we have, again, that allows us to also spread it out more.
Mr. Mayor, I'm glad you said something about the HOAs because in looking at the affordability piece or the workforce housing piece or the missing middle housing, whatever terminology you want to use when you are addressing the economical side of this and people being able to be in these units. If you're talking about keeping them at, I'm gonna just use the terminology, missing middle housing. Um, you've got to count the cost of everything that's gonna come with being able to occupy one of these units. And so when you're talking about there will be an HOA, then you've got to understand too that now that's an expense that's going to be added into whatever the other monthly expenses of maintaining a household. And so when we're talking about this, we're talking about whatever other ad valorem taxes or whatever other expenses that you may not just account for on just an average basis. So when we were doing this with the land bank and we were considering affordability and how we would narrate that and how that looks and what is accounted for in that equation, Frank brought to our attention to make sure that when we are looking at the economical pieces of these matters, that we account for everything that it takes to maintain and retain that household. So some of these other costs that may be hidden costs are still costs that are going to come up and factor into this equation of workforce housing, affordable housing, or missing middle housing. So we need to make sure we're considering everything that comes into play with the retaining and maintaining of these households.
Yes, ma'am. I'm full agreement. I think that's why, to make sure we figured out who would maintain that green space, how that would be done, and I do appreciate or applaud the HOA fees, obvious being incorporated for those who are buying a home, and the rentals kind of still a different kind of category. But I completely agree. If we think about the affordability of the city, HOA pricing, something that we want to keep an eye on for sure. But I do want to say a starting price of $675 is extremely hard to get to. I know that you all had to do a lot of work. $675 is a number that we have not heard a very long time for the missing middle housing or affordability in the affordability space. So I applaud the work that has been done with the AMI scale to ensure that we have scale of affordability from $675 all the way up to the 1650, which would, replicate more of market rate. How that in itself for a 3-bedroom is still far below what we see out of the city of Brunswick. So I want to say thank you for the work that you all have done on. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll
Just,
open it for a
I
motion.
commend them for that as well, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that is,
Real quick,
I think that's pretty good. I'm sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
It's just saying, when they came back, with the 675 and the progression up at a maximum, I'm gonna say that's the maximum of 1650. I think they're moving in the right direction. 675. So I agree with you on that.
Ma'am, and we have uh Commissioner Harrison in the crowd with us, who is a member of our Planning and Appeals Commission. So thank you for the work that you all have done on the PAC board to move this through you all's process to bring us a good product. And with that, we'll open it for a motion. Oh, public comment. Sorry, I always do that. Any additional comments from the public? Always wait on your look. Good. All right. That portion is closed. And with that, we'll open it for a motion.
Not sure if anybody's saying anything.
Uh-oh.
I didn't. Okay. Nobody's offered the motion.
Oh no, we're offering the motion right now. I don't think you can hear Commissioner Rolls' mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to start over. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the rezone for petition number 2401, which is 2400 Reynolds Street, from Rent Cottages LLC owner petitioning to rezone parcel number 104148 from neighborhood commercial to mixed use city or historic.
Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Harrison is second. All those in favor show by the sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to items to consider for approval. Approval of June 18th, 24 regular scheduled meeting minutes. City Clerk, add any changes or anything? I didn't see any, so we'll open for a motion.
I move that we approve the June 18th, 2024 regular scheduled meeting minutes.
Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to consider approval of construction contract Albany Street drainage improvement. Director Albertson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think you're probably all familiar with the drainage problems that we have in the 1600 block Albany Street between F and G streets. That's an area that we have to block off anytime we get any kind of rainfall. In fact, it is listed as the #1 priority project, our stormwater master plan. So, we're anxious to get that area improved and provide some relief there. We went and had the design completed. We actually had 4 projects in the master plan designed. Macon Talmadge, which is #2, has already been completed. Here we have the completed design for the Albany Street, ready to move forward with construction. We advertised that project for bid. We only got 1 bid. That was from Woodard Construction Company. We talked back and forth with Woodard, negotiated with them, decided that we were better off to negotiate with them and try to move the project forward than to try to reach it for bid or, you know, try to change the design or make some changes and go out to bid. So, after negotiating with, we have reached a contract value of $3,610,607, $3.6 million. That project, or the project, will be funded primarily by SPLOST 22 funds for storm drainage. But we also have a couple of grants coming in with this. We got a grant from the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, GFA, that in the amount of $1.65 million. I just got that grant yesterday, so we'll be moving that through the process. And we're also expecting a state economic and infrastructure development grant, possibly up to $500,000 there. We're not certain on when they come through, but we've got good word that is coming. That, if both of those go through, that would leave just under $1.5 million to be made out of our local SPLOST funds. That's basically it. It's a pretty straightforward project. Like I said, we're anxious to get started and move ahead with the project and provide relief there to that neighborhood and that part of the city. Be glad to answer any questions that y'all have.
Wonderful. And I do one from Woodard.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Wonderful.
Jason Woodard is here representing Woodard Construction.
Mr. Woodard, great to meet you. I want to say thank you, as we've been working as a commission to make sure those who we're spending the people's money with, that they at least come before us and have some conversations about the work to be done. So I just want to appreciate you being here with us evening. Questions or comments from the commission?
I have a question, and how long, Woodard, how long would it take for you all to complete this job once you start it?
Say 9 months.
It's up for a 9-month project.
9 months?
Yes, ma'am.
So in that 9 months, is it one side or
You
what?
kind of go, you want to start, you're going to go in what I would consider phases. On the low end would be, I guess, on the
Low end would probably be where it discharges into Stonewall Street. So
We'll
most
start-
likely you'd start at Stonewall and kind of work back west towards Albany.
go to the 4-lane, get
Mhm.
that completed, cross the 4-lane, get that completed, then go from the 4-lane to, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the street.
So
back to
basically, the
Albany, yeah.
traffic pattern will be altered through there.
Yes, ma'am. There will be some interruptions as we work across MLK, especially there, that 4-lane highway. I guess one good thing, if there's a good thing about that, is Woodard also did the making Talmadge job for us and worked the same kind of sequence of events working across 17 there in front of McDonald's. And that worked really well. We were able to stage that and sequence that. The traffic wasn't interrupted too much there.
Yeah, we won't do it where the whole job is to work. I mean, we'll do it in phases and finish. Like I said, when we cross the 4-lane, we'll do, one part and fix it, go to the other part, fix it. And
Okay.
that way everything's,
Flowing.
going. Yeah,
Okay, because that's
I understand. that
MLK is a big truck. I go through there every morning, well, work morning,
We
and
was
I get
concerned-
through there.
We were concerned with making Talmadge crossing 17, but it really worked out pretty good. Really better than what I thought it was going.
Okay,
It worked out good.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like 3 simple things. First, thank you much for all your hard work, Garrow and Mr. Woodard on this. There's some construction going right now over there. What's that, Garrow?
That is Atlanta Gaslight relocating their utilities, getting out of the way of these guys so that when they come in storm drains, the other existing utilities are not in the way.
Okay. Just wanted to say again, even though you said it in the mic, for those watching, that once again, our SPLOST dollars are at work. And that's why it's important to get the dollars in community to get these things done.
That's right.
So, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, questions, comments?
Just a big thank you. And know that these sentiments are echoed by the entire community that travels that corridor. So ready for you all to get started, and let's bring some resolution to it. And again, echoing what Commissioner Rose said, SPLOST dollars at work, demonstrating the need for SPLOST.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Sebi. Quick question. The SEID grant, is that DOT?
No, sir. It's state economic and infrastructure development.
Okay.
And Russ Moran has applied for that and kind of been on the application side of that.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the agency that's working through, to be
Perfect.
honest with you.
If and this is maybe city manager, as we work through grants, and I know there are several grants that we work in, so I want to say thank you for bringing down those state dollars. That helps us stretch dollars. So thank you to you and Russ. Once we understand what governing agency of that grant is, if we can get it as a committee, so we can send a support letter as we bring on staff, or as we bring someone in Atlanta in that area to kind of do the government affairs for the city. If we know that holding agency, it allows all of us to use our state contacts to push it across the finish line. So whenever we know that, as we have grants that come through, if you guys just let us know, we'll work on our due diligence on our end. So I just want to applaud you for bringing that money into the only other question that I have is, there are a few things here that the city is signed up to do. I don't know some of them. And so what is like remove S-W or remove C and G? I'm just wondering what that is.
SW is sidewalk.
Okay.
C&G is curb and gutter.
Got it.
Concrete items that we will go in ahead of time with our city crews and put those out.
Got it.
And just preparing the area for these guys.
Or when
Just
they come in.
kind of a try to, that we can reduce the contract amount and try to save a little money on our end.
Okay, perfect. And how is it, last question for me, I understand that we're crossing over, well, I guess in 17, you're crossing over DOT roads. Do you work with DOT in concert? Do you get permission to do that? How does that work when you have to cross a road that we don't necessarily own?
On a definitely have to work with GDOT. They have to issue the approval for us to do construction in there right away.
Got it.
They approve the traffic control plans and any kind of construction details as we cross those roads.
Those major roads.
Fortunately for this, there is no DOT involvement. These
Okay.
are all city streets here, so
Perfect.
that will make it move a little quicker.
A little quicker. That's a good deal. All right, that's all I have. We'll open it for a motion.
I just have one more
Yes,
question.
ma'am. Sorry.
I notice here it says handicap ramp.
Those are the ADA ramps at the end of the sidewalk, the curb cuts where the sidewalk, where a wheelchair or something could leave the sidewalk and enter the street without having to go off the edge of the curb. You know, have the little dimpled pads there. So that's what those are.
Guess I didn't never think of them as handicap ramps.
And Mayor, just for the record, the State Economic and Infrastructure Development Grant Program is part of the South Crescent Regional Commission, which is a federal program that was a part of the Farm Bill. So we will get you more information about it and
Okay.
allow you all to. That's
Perfect. Thank you so much. With that, you go.
Once we get this, our contract signed and everything, we'll meet with these guys and have a pre-construction meeting. I don't know if you have an idea right now what schedule looks like.
It'd be October, September. It takes 3 months still to get material. It still takes a while.
Securing materials, is that included inside the 9 months?
Securing,
Whenever you said it takes a while, the materials, is that when you saying completion? No. So that's an additional to the 9. So basically a year to do this job. Okay.
Can we make sure that in the same manner, where and even more efficient and effective that we did when we did the College Park area, that we're putting out notices to the community when this is going to start, the status, giving updates to let people know you can't come down this road detour, just making sure that the public is aware of the progression and the time frames that this job will be taking place, and have that information so that they can plan accordingly.
Yes, we will definitely publicize because, yes, this section of All Street will need to be closed completely, as well as that portion of G Street will need to be closed periodically, and it's a pretty heavily traveled roadway. So we'll make sure to get the information out to the neighborhood, to the newspaper, social media, and those kind of avenues.
Thank you for that.
Transportation for the school systems and stuff. So everybody will be abreast.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. We make sure we work with our departments to get that information. And like you said, school board and everything, so we know traffic pattern that time. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we authorize you to sign an agreement with Woodard Construction Company in the amount of $3,600,607 for construction of the Albany Street Drainage Improvement Project.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor, show by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passed. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Woodard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will now move on to number 7, consider approval of financial reports, May 30th, 2024. City Manager.
Good evening, and that's as the 31st, the report, which is 92% of our fiscal year. We are thoroughly past that point now, but as of May, our revenues were $20,756,000, which represented 102% of our projection for last year. So we have exceeded budget on our revenues. The expenditures were $17,170,000, representing approximately 5% of expenditures. So as of May, we were doing very well in terms of revenues over expenditures. The month of May, we did $1.4 million. We spent $1.9 million for a net of $489,000 expenditures over revenues. But of course, we were not collecting a large amount of tax during the month of May. Our cash balance as of May 31st was $11,315,000, of $10,570,000 was in Georgia Fund. We had collected approximately $5,979,000 of actual property taxes as of May. The collection on our largest revenue lost was $834,000 for the month of May, which was approximately 5% over the $796,000 that was collected in May of 2023. Total loss claims for the year was $9,056,000 over the $0.4 million last year, which give us a total of approximately 6.8% increase of revenues from fiscal year 23 to fiscal 24. Moving on to our SPLOS report, the SPLOS 6, we had very little activity in that fund, only about $1,000 of drainage expense. that was spent. We have approximately $300,000 left in that fund for the fiscal year. We also have cash on hand of $232,000 for the SPLOS 6. The SPLOS 22, our activity for the month was approximately $172,000. Most of that was spent for street improvements and also for improvements at Orange Park to finish the splash pad. As of May, we had collected $7.7 million in SPLOS dollars, and that's approximately a year's worth of collections. We had interest earned of $169,000 for a total of $7.9 million of collections from the inception of that tax. Cash on hand of May was $4.7 million. The Norwich Common Fund had very little activity, only interest earned in that fund. We have approximately $366,000 cash on hand for the Norwich Commons Fund. The Roosevelt Harris Fund, the intake for the year is $369,000. Our expenditures for the year is $309,000 for a net as of May of approximately $10,000. Our cash balance as of May is $68,000. The grants for the Roosevelt Harris Center are over, but we have collected 105% of grant. So our money that we're transferring from the general fund is a lot less, which is at about 72%. The ARPA funds, the only expenditures we had in ARPA for the month of May were payment to Coastal Community Healthcare for the contract that we had started a couple of years ago. We were at the second year. We paid a $207,000 for year one, year two of that particular contract. As of May, we had $640,000 of unallocated funds in our fund. We had $4.3 million of total expenditures and a cash balance of $5.6 million. In our sanitation fund, we had revenues of $0.3 million, expenditures of $1.5 million for operating income of $859,000, cash on hand of $684,000. The restricted for the landfill is at $205,000. The only activity was interned in that account. The waste disposal, $140,000 of expenditures for the month of May, which is consistent with most months in that particular category. A total year-to-date expenditures of $1,428,000. In our stormwater utility, for the year, we've had $1.3 million of cash or inflows, approximately $7,000 additional in May. The outflows are at $1.1 million, and we spent approximately $120,000 in May for a balance of $229,000. The cash on hand is $177,000 for the stormwater. And last but not least, the Lawrence Center, we had $10,661 of expenditures. Our budget is at approximately 72%. Total for the year, $104,000 of expenditures. So that budget is low right now, but month of June, they have additional expenditures for their summer program. So they will be probably right at budget by the end of the year. That completes my report. The only other thing I wanted to say was Happy New Year. Our new fiscal year started as of July 1st. New money in our budgets. And thank you all for your support for that. So thank you for the holiday on Friday. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Quarter comments.
Miss McDuffie, I have two questions. On the Roosevelt Lawrence Center, and I think this was, did you ever find out about that increase of electricity? Wasn't it for the center? Had that looks large electricity. Okay, don't worry.
The
It was
Lawrence Center.
I think it was the Lawrence Center, the large electric.
Actually, it's pretty much running close to budget, so I'll have to check into that. I think there was another, I think it was the Ritz
The Reds.
that had the large,
Okay.
electricity, but I'll check that electric bill.
And now, this is the Lawrence Center. I know last meeting, the mayor direct about sending a letter to the county about them providing funds to the Roosevelt Harris Center.
Mhm.
Did they ever respond or anything or?
Had a subsequent meeting, with the county manager, and he stated at the meeting that he was going to send a written response to the letter. But I have not received written response.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, we will open it. Let me make this comment really quick. And I know we are in the middle of bringing on a financer. When that does happen, I want to make a statement, and I would love for Commissioner Atkinson Williams to kind of spearhead this effort. I have been talking about us evaluating where the city holds its money. I understand the Georgia Fund 1 account is something that we have to continuously watch because interest rates fluctuate. And so we have to ensure that we are still in a positive mode there, and they hold a good bit of that money, but we do hold a bit of money locally in a local bank, which I believe also needs to be evaluated on some yearly kind of basis to see interest rates change between banks, which banks make sense to be the strongest community partner. There are several things that I think need to be at least thought about when we're holding this level of money. I know up until now, I've been here for some years. I've never heard from that bank. I never received a call from that bank. That bank has never come here to a conversation about how they invest, interest rates, et cetera, et cetera. Would love to have some kind of thought process go into, it could be much the smartest place to hold our money, but we want to have the commission sure of that and at least the cent sure of that as we do that.
Yeah, I think, Mayor, it would be a great time. I know we do have numerous accounts at the current bank, and all of our working accounts are at Prime South Bank.
Okay.
And it'd take a lot to change over banking.
Mhm.
So once we start looking at that process, if we bring someone new in, it would be a good time to make those changes, at that time possibly. But we do continue to try and keep funding and moving it to Georgia Fund 1. I was going, Commissioner Williams had asked about the interest rate, and I look at it, it is above 5% because we had a conversation with our investment manager on the pension. But I haven't looked at it over the year, but I can look at what those fluctuations of rates have been through the year. When I looked at it today, and we do try and keep as much money in that account invested in the local bank, just to make sure that we are getting some return on our investments.
Agreed.
But thank you for that.
Thank you.
Our
no more
investor, this is Commissioner Harris. Our investor did say in our pension meeting, and I think he was also addressing like money market accounts as well. And he was saying that if you're anything above 5%, that you're doing pretty good.
That's really good. I know that has been a winner for us throughout the time. So want to say thank you for that. Any more comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
I move that we accept approval of the financial reports as of May the 30th, 2024.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second? Hearing the first and the second, all in favor, show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, motion passes. Any need for executive session? Hearing none, we'll open for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn.
First, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Go ahead, we never got.